Hey there, everybody. Cameron Morsey coming to you again with another Ask Me Anything session on leadership and management. Thrilled to be here with you. I want to give a big shout out to any first-time viewers on this. And for those that have been here before, welcome back. I do these throughout the course of the week just so that leaders and managers can ask me questions as they're going through their regular work week, any struggles that they come across. So as you tune in, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comment section. And as you have questions, feel free to throw those into the comment section, and I'll just kind of take these in order as we go through them. I also love to encourage everybody to put their own thoughts about the questions that I'm answering in the comment section. I don't pretend to have all of the answers out there, so any help that I can get or other perspectives are always welcome down in the comment section. So please, let's make this an interactive session as much as possible. So while I wait for the first question to come in for today, I did want to handle one that came in after last week's live session that came in. And it was specifically in regards to motivation, and is it okay to lie to your employees to motivate them? And, you know, it's a question that people probably naturally have an aversion to right away. And they say, no, of course you don't lie to people. And yes, that's absolutely my advice. Don't lie to your staff. Your staff, your motivation, everything that you build is built on trust. And so lying to them about anything is something that definitely hurts that trust. Now, we'll be tempted in cases where we can't divulge, where we have confidential and sensitive information, and something like telling them that you can't talk about that is actually some sort of affirmation of whatever it is that's going on. There can be those instances that come up, but in any of those cases where you tell those justifiable lies or little white lies, you need to double back to the person when the information comes out so that you can explain yourself. They will likely understand why it is that you did that, but you need to have that conversation because you don't want to impinge on that trust. But 99% of the time, lies are not something that you want in any aspect of your leadership, let alone in any sort of motivation, because that really is, like I say, foundational things that can really hurt you down the road. So Hazem opens up the first question today, and I'd love to get more as people tune in. Go ahead, throw in your questions for our discussion today. And that is, what do you think about employee-based management? Well, I am a huge proponent of the employee. I actually get criticized a lot of times on Facebook and the social media channels because I seem to put all of the onus on the boss. It's the boss's fault. The boss needs to take action if the employee is falling short. And so you, as a leader, don't get your results unless you are focused on getting the results of your employees. Your individual ability to do work pales in comparison to if you support your team and get 10 people, 8 people, 20 people, however many people are on your team, get them working effectively. So I'm a huge fan of employee-based management because that's really what leadership is all about. Otherwise, you're just another regular worker. So you need to put the focus on the employee. Now, like I say, where I get criticized oftentimes is that I put the onus on the boss to take action to address employee failures. And the reason I do that is because you can't necessarily make somebody else do something. You oftentimes have to act on their behalf first. So you take the first step forward towards resolution, and then the employee meets you halfway. Or you hold their hand, for lack of a better term, to walk them through improving their particular behavior, their skill set, what have you. Your job as a leader is to get the most out of your employees, and you will do whatever it takes to get that done. And oftentimes that means taking action to help them out ahead of time. Kimberly asked the question, I don't feel ready to take a step into management, but my work is pushing me. Well, congratulations, Kimberly, first and foremost. How do I politely tell them I'm not interested because I'm too new and not ready? I've seen them just throw people into the position, and 2 of them have left. And so, Kimberly, what you do is you have that flat-out conversation with them, and they're going to tell you that that's actually a leadership trait, and it is, having that honest, forthright conversation with them. But let them know what it is that you want to see before you take that step into leadership. So what is it? You're new to the organization. So what experiences do you need to have? Do you need to go shadow other departments? Do you need to go visit other departments to feel better at that? Do you need to be assigned some tasks, some projects ahead of time? So go to them and tell them at this time you're not interested in management. You don't feel ready for it. What you would like to see is you would like to see maybe some shadowing efforts, maybe some projects thrown your way, that sort of thing, but gets kind of specific with what you want to see, and then you'd love to revisit this in 3 months, 6 months, that sort of thing. It's awesome to get that first step into leadership, but I totally understand that if you have an organization that isn't set up to support you, then you are going to fail in that step. And so that's awesome that you've identified that ahead of time. That sort of anticipation is a leadership trait. That sort of acknowledgement that you don't have what it takes right now to be successful in that is a leadership trait as well. So I want to encourage you to take that step forward, but see what it is specifically you want the organization to give you so that you can be successful in that role, and come to them with that plan. That way 3 to 6 months from now, when the next person that they've identified has left the company, you'll be in a better position to go ahead and move into that role. So that would be great. Andrew asked the question, I've recently been made redundant and now struggling to find work. Is there anything in particular that employers like to hear in interviews that can help lock that job down? Andrew, what employers want to hear, the most important thing that you can do, everybody who's not going to be doing the same job that they're in for the next 20 years of their life, listen to this. When you go to an interview, when you're looking for that job, they don't want to hear what your responsibilities were. Having that list of responsibilities is useless. They know because they posted the job and put a whole bunch of responsibilities that they know are half BS. What they want to hear is they want to hear what you've done. What are your accomplishments? What projects did you see through? What crises did you overcome? They want to hear what you did, not what you're going to do, not what your job description says that you did. Think about the 10 employees that are around you that have the same job description that you have. Which one of them is better? But if you go to a job interview and just list your job description, well then shoot, there's no way of identifying which one is better. The person that's better is the one who has the accomplishments, the experience, and has been through the fire. So talk about your accomplishment. What great things that you did. Did you get awarded for anything? Did you train anybody? Were you trained on certain things? List those accomplishments, list the impact that you have. Don't put a job description together, put an impact description. What impact did you have on the organization? That's what you talk about in interviews, and that's what'll get you a job, Andrew. Best of luck, by the way. Carlos asked a question, I have an interview for VP of Marketing Communications in my company today. What's your advice for my interview? Well, Carlos, you heard me just describe it right there. So if you didn't list it on your resume, that's fine. You have a copy of your resume. So everything that you listed on your resume, go through those and find an example in your past of how you demonstrated and how you excelled at that particular job skill, job trait, that sort of thing. Again, you're looking for things where I took over a department and sales increased 20% in the first year. I decreased turnover. I instituted a new training program. All of those things that you did, look for demonstrable items on there that you can go through and you can talk about. Interviews are a chance for you to brag about your accomplishments and to demonstrate to the other side that you have the demeanor, the experience, and the thought process to go through those. Now, and that thought process brings up an excellent point for everybody out there, if you don't have the experience, there's no problem with telling them what you would do in a particular situation. So if you don't have experience firing somebody, for instance, you can go ahead and take them through. Well, in the case of firing, I would hope that I would have a progressive discipline in place so it's not a complete surprise to the employee that this is taking place. I'd go over the specific instance where that is causing this firing to take place. I would have all of my paperwork and everything set up ahead of time. I'd ask them to sign that, tell them what the next steps are, and then move on from there. So you can tell them what you would do so you can let them know the thought process, but experience is what really matters. Will asked the question. I'm actually filming this. What I'm filming this on, I'm actually filming this on my Note 5, my Samsung Note 5. So not the one that is blowing up and causing fires and that sort of thing. But very simple. Facebook is really kind of limited. If I wanted to do a full audio-visual setup, I could do something a little bit fancier, but they really actually push you to the mobile devices for these live sessions. So I just have it I have my phone mounted up right now. That's what I'm using right now. That's why you see my hand going like this as I'm scrolling up through the comments that come in. Crystal asked a question, good one, I like it. I'm struggling with taking things personally. I've had a competitor recruit my people. They left for higher pay after putting so much into their development. And Crystal, it's one of the, in leadership, what you really want is you want your people to excel. You want your people to leave. One of the best things that a leader has going for them is if their people are learning and developing and moving up in their careers. Now that can be hopefully within the same organization. I loved being in a position where I could be recruiting the next leaders in the organization. I was blessed to have larger organizations, so a big pool of talent that I could move into different divisions based on what the individual people's likes and traits were. So you want to have that happening, Crystal. You want to be developing the people, spending the time so that they can improve their lives. And what that does is that continues to give you great people. Great employees are attracted to great employers and great leaders. I'm going to say that again. Great employees are attracted to great employers and great leaders. You won't have a problem finding great people because you will know what to look for. They will see the fruits. You'll be able to speak to what you do for good employees. So I wouldn't take that personally. There's a very logical reason. Money is a reason to move on. For many people, you know, responsibility is I still think the most important thing long-term for your career, but money is very, very close behind that. And so that's a very legitimate reason for people to move on. I wouldn't get disheartened because of that. I would take that as a little bit of a feather in your cap. If you want to try to mitigate that a little bit, what you want to do is you want to work on their development even just a little bit more. So you want to give them a reason to stay. And one of the reasons to stay is that they are learning. Not just that they feel appreciated, which I trust that you're showing to them, but that they are learning and that they are developing, which will allow them to move up higher as they look to move on and look to new challenges. So that's what I would really focus on. Focus on that development, double down on that just a little bit more. But if you're doing your job as a leader, your people are going to leave and seek better challenges because you have developed them to be able to excel at those challenges. So I kind of give you a little bit of an attaboy on that one, Crystal. I know it's tough for you. Don't take it personally. Keep investing. You're doing the right thing. If they're getting these jobs, then fantastic. And you should celebrate that and look for the next people to come in and tutor those up as well. Do you have anything in regards to healthcare management, Amy? I do actually get a lot of nurses in particular here and nurse managers on here asking questions on things. The key is communication whenever possible. It's the same advice I give on leadership for most everything. John Maxwell, a famous author, says that everything rises and falls on leadership, and I put a little addendum to that, and that is leadership rises and falls on communication. If you aren't getting the results that you want, you need to increase your communication. Your communication will follow those results. So if there's an area that's a struggle, start communicating with your boss about it, with your peers about it, with your employees about it, and you will find the problems and the opportunities to turn that around. That's the real key on almost everything. But communicate, communicate, communicate. That's the real key to leadership. Shondan asked the question, there is no respect, what I feel in my team for me. So the team isn't respecting you. And Shondan, what I want you to do in those cases is I want you to start explaining your decisions a little bit more. In the case of most leaders out there, our teams don't understand what it is that we do on a regular basis. They don't understand what goes into our decisions. And so you want to bring them into the decision process a little bit and just start explaining why, Shondan. That's what you really want to do. Start explaining why. So when you give them a task, hey, I need you to go over and do this, Don't leave it at that, because we need to get these items out. You give the reason for your things. And when they start understanding the reason behind your actions, they'll start respecting your thought process more. That's the real key. So get involved with them as much as possible as far as the why is concerned. The other thing that you want to do is you want to start talking to them about where they see opportunities. Now, you can go, my 5 questions that I ask that everybody should be asking all of the time is asking their team, what do they see that's going right in the organization? What do they see that's going wrong in the organization? Where are there opportunities we're not taking advantage of? Where are there problems that we need to fix? And how I can help you do your job better. Those 5 things. What's going right? What's going wrong? Where are there opportunities? Where are there problems? And how can I help you do a better job? Focus on those 5 questions, Shandon. Focus on the why behind your decisions, and over the next month, 2 months, you'll see that respect really start growing from your team towards you. That would really be my advice. Next one is Elman, and I am a newbie in handling a team virtually. I don't want them to feel that I am their manager, but they tend to abuse me. And so the big struggle with dealing with virtual teams, Elman, is they aren't there. And when they aren't there in front of you, you aren't getting as much information from them, and they aren't getting as much information from you. So what you want to do is you want to communicate even more with them. Virtual teams, it's a requirement that you have a weekly one-on-one with them. Again, just ask them those 5 questions. What's going right? What's going wrong? Where are there problems, opportunities, and how can I help? And then you review, of course, what you talked about in the last meeting. But you have to have that one-on-one time to be able to continue that communication, get that feedback going back and forth. That's the real key on things. When they start understanding that, when you are more invested in them, they will stop taking advantage of you because there won't be as many opportunities to, and they'll also respect you more. So that's the first thing. Have those one-on-ones, up that communication quotient that you have for your team. That's the real key with virtual teams. The other thing is look towards technology that can bring the team together a little bit more. So if you have groups of 10, of 12, if you don't, then make groups of 10 and 12 and bring them together regularly for a team meeting. You can do that maybe every 2 weeks. So you foster a sense of teamwork, you foster a sense of accountability with that, and it gives you yet another outlet for you to be discussing and communicating with the team. But Elman, up the communication, especially with virtual teams. There's a whole lot that they can take advantage of if you're not on top of it. And the best way to be on top of it is to actually be involved with them. That's what gets the lasting sort of development and productivity that you're really looking for. Yes, and well, I'm glad my phone's one of the safe ones too. I saw that's terrible. Carlos asked a question. No. Yeah, I can't. Singing board. Good to see you on here, Meryl. Cameron asked the question. Great name, Cameron Anthony Daniel. Love it. 3 first names. How do you sink in when you join middle management in a new company? Not to fake it. Well, don't fake it. First of all, ask questions, Cameron. That's the first thing, is you want to ask questions and you want to listen. That's my advice for any new leaders out there. If you're joining an organization, you first want to listen. The best way to listen is to ask questions, and then you're forced to listen to whatever it is that you asked about. But ask your boss questions and listen to them for what the priorities are, what their vision is for the organization, what their expectations are. Ask questions of your peers and listen to them for common struggles, the political layout of the organization, that sort of thing. And then ask your team questions on how you can help them. This is starting out fresh, especially, you move up into new leaders are a great opportunity to start fresh and to reassess some things as far as the employees are concerned. So listen to your employees as much as possible. As you listen, first of all, you will gain some respect, because people always respect those that spend the time to listen to them. But you'll also just get a better understanding of the people, and then you are more in sync. But listen, that's the key. Ask questions, listen to the answers, Cameron. That'll help you get in sync with that middle management and with everybody else that's in the organization. Next question comes from Manif, and it is how to make it easy on employees to understand others' tasks. That's A great question, Manif. In a lot of cases, what we'll deal with is every department in an organization thinks that they have it the toughest and that everybody else has it easy. So customer support thinks they have the toughest and accounting has it easy, and accounting thinks they have the toughest and marketing has it easiest, and marketing thinks they have the toughest, but the warehouse has it easy. So everybody has these sort of disagreements within organizations. One of the best ways to overcome that is to identify certain people that have an interest in those areas on your team. So if you're in customer support, for instance, you might have somebody that's interested in marketing or had warehouse experience, and send them over to shadow for a day in the warehouse, in marketing, in accounting. You don't need a whole lot of people. It's great if a whole bunch of people have interest in it, but you have an operation to run as well. But even getting one person to shadow over in that department can be a resource for everybody else to understand. So customer support goes, I don't understand why marketing does it that way. And then Julie can chime in, who went over to marketing last week, and say, well, the reason they do it is because of such and such. Same thing with the warehouse. But do those shadowing programs, like I say, even just one subject matter expert in a department can really break down those walls. And then having those people come in and take a look at your area can also bridge that gap in communication. The other thing that you want to do outside of shadowing, Manif, is to start focusing also on organizational goals. A lot of time these silos get created simply because their goals aren't compatible at all. So, salespeople have, their goals of selling a ton of merchandise. They're graded on top line revenue, whereas finance is graded on net profitability. Well, those two things can be opposing. Sales hates finance because they never approve the pricing. Finance hates sales because sales keeps trying to lower the pricing. So take a look at larger organizational goals and see if there's some things that match up a little bit better so that you have a common language. But that's a great way to break down those silos as well. But shadowing, without a doubt, is some of the best things that you can do for your team as far as gaining an understanding of other areas. Next question comes in, and that is, yes, where one-on-ones are a must, yes. Rodrigo asked the question, what would you do if you are currently working for a company that has lost their essential values? Rodrigo, that's an unfortunate situation to find yourself in. And it can happen with those that have lost their values or those that also never had the values that they say they had in the first place. And what you want to do is, if they've lost their essential values, you can start talking about it a little bit more, and it'll get people thinking. It's a long-term plan on those sorts of things, but make sure that you and your team are aligned with the essential values of the organization, and then start talking about them a little bit. If you have a one-on-one, if you have a meeting with your boss or your boss's boss, mention why it is that the company is putting a focus on, openness or something, whatever the essential value is. Ask them what it is about and why it was important and why it was put in there. That kind of markets that trait and puts it top of mind, but it also gives you some background on it as well. But make sure you're in alignment. You can be in alignment. You don't have to follow the herd that isn't. So you can be in alignment with what the essential values are in your organization, but you also want to bring it into the discussion. A lot of times these values just get forgotten about. You put a mission statement up on the board and nobody looks at it. So if you start talking about it, more people will start talking about it, and that's kind of the long road to get through that particular spot. From Australia, could we use the Avengers and different skills as some sort of metaphor? Patrick, yes, absolutely. Your team has a ton of diverse skills. And I hope that you're tapping into those particular skills. If you have people that are doing monotonous, the same job description, 10 different people, you're not leveraging your team as well as you could. You should have a certain level of specialization on there. Obviously, teamwork, if you want to keep going down the road of the Avengers, it takes a team, it takes different skills to get through and be truly successful. You want to leverage everybody's strengths And that way you minimize actually the weaknesses that everybody is also dealing with. So that would be my big metaphor on that. I'm going to open it up just a couple more questions. If you've got questions, go ahead and throw it into the comment section here. I will be doing another one of these sessions here on Thursday, so in a couple of days, so check that out. Here we go. Is there a different way to quickly get a brand new team? Some of them the school leavers, all working as a team and being efficient, as well as instilling professionalism in younger team players, looking for new ideas. If you have those sort of seasonal workers, that's where it gets a little bit more troublesome as far as hiring, depending on what your pipeline is. Ideally, you'd be able to mitigate that by anticipating that of the 10 people I have, 5 are going to leave. So I'm bringing in 2 a month in advance. I'm bringing in 1 the same week, and I'm filling in the other 2 afterwards. A lot of us don't have that sort of flexibility as far as a budget is concerned to be staffed up with 12 in anticipation of 5 people leaving. So you want to try to get ahead of it as much as possible. You can interview ahead of time. A lot of people, most applicants have jobs and need to give 2 weeks notice. Is what happens out there in the marketplace. So go ahead and get ahead of it a month in advance, so that you can start getting that better pipeline of people so that you're ready to go on that particular day. Now, if you're looking to foster teamwork, then you can see what's worked in the past. There's lots of team building exercises, Adam. Go ahead, go to Google, look at those team building exercises and see what actually matches your organization, because there's a wide variety. Team building exercises aren't just going out into the woods and doing a rope course. They can be get to know you exercises. 2 Truths and a Lie was always a favorite of mine because it was very insightful for everybody and gave them a little bit of insider knowledge and help do bonding. But there's a lot of exercises you do. When you bring somebody on board, or you bring a team of people on board, do one every day, every other day. Those little get to know you sections where the new people get to know the old people, and that will help build that up. But come up with a plan in advance. So start looking further ahead. You don't have to do job offers until people actually leave. So start looking ahead, and then have those team building exercises right off the bat so that you can focus on those right away. Those are my 2 takes on that. Manif asked the question, how to deal with those people who always look for other mistakes? Well, if they're finding mistakes, Manif, then great. All right. That we need to find mistakes. We need to find areas of improvement. I would challenge them to not just look for mistakes. I challenge them to look for opportunities as well that everybody's not taking advantage of. But they also then need to be open when people call out their mistakes as well. So go ahead, encourage them to find those mistakes, but also encourage them to look for opportunities and the mistakes in themselves. It's fine. The more mistakes, the more information you have, the more problems you can solve, the better the organization is going to be in the end. And that's a great place to take it from. All right, so encourage that, but encourage them to look for opportunities and to be open to their own mistakes as well. Crystal asked a question, being a store manager for 20 years, how do you prepare for district management? I'm leverage frequently, there we go, for above and beyond projects and development of the district. But how do you know when you're really ready for the next step in leadership? Crystal, when you are questioning it like this, you're probably ready to take the leap. You've had some exposure with these projects, but you're nervous about taking that jump up. What you can also do is have a conversation with the current district manager and say, hey, what makes you successful in your role? Or other district managers, and what makes you successful in your role? And really listen to them. You might get a haphazard answer of, hey, I make sure that sales are good. And that seems frivolous on a certain level, but you know what? That may be the main priority that the regional manager is looking at is sales. So if you mind the sales, everything else is secondary to that. So look at that. But I think if you're asking the question, if you've had some exposure already, I always recommend taking the leap. You can prepare yourself for the role if you ask the right questions of the people that are around you, both above and beside. And also think back, you've been in this store manager position for 20 years. What have good district managers done for you and for the organization. You probably have a whole laundry list of things that could be done. So definitely tap into your experience and the experience of others. But I say go for it, really. If you've been in the store manager job for 20 years, you're ready. You know what it takes. So Wesley, you know what? I don't know when I'm back live on Thursday. I want to say it's 1 o'clock. But what you can do, and what I encourage everybody to do actually, is just go to my Facebook page. There's an event section and you can subscribe. It doesn't bombard you with anything more than my regular posts. It just lets you know when I'm doing these particular sessions. It'll drop into your news feed. That's the best way to do it. April asked one question. I'll field this as well. And how do you handle someone whose poor mood brings down others on the team? You know, those Debbie Downers, for lack of a better term, that's always something that I try to handle the root cause of. So I might bring this person, and we'll call her Debbie. We can call her Debbie Downer. I'd bring Debbie in, and I'd say, "Hey, I noticed you're having a bum day. You know, what is it that's going on? What's got you down?" And try to address that and have that communication with her to kind of nip it in the bud just a little bit, and recommend other ways of handling it. Oh, well, I just had a really tough call, with a customer. They were yelling at me. Hey, you know what? You can always move those over to me. You don't have to sit there and listen to them yelling at you. Or we all have those tough calls. Everybody does. You know what? Next time, just take a quick 5-minute break in the break room, get yourself some coffee, and come back fresh. That's what we all do. It's not a big deal. Everybody has those sort of tough calls. So you can kind of coach them a little bit, and you let them know that that you value them enough to have that discussion with them, which lifts their mood. The other thing to do is actually make sure that you're calling out the successes, that you're working on the motivation and the positivity of other people. A lot of times organizations will have Debbie Downers, but they don't get any traction because nobody's interested in listening to it. Everybody else is being successful and is having their work recognized and know they're doing something that's important and all of those things. So work on your overall motivation as well, April. So have those discussions with people as to what it is that motivates them, teamwork, accomplishment, intrinsic sense of doing a good job, that sort of thing. And start calling out their successes a little bit more so you can kind of play a little bit of a defense around that person as well. But have that first conversation with them and try to see what the root cause of it, and if you can address that, and then the issue is taken care of. That's going to be it for today. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate all the comments down there and the questions. These are absolutely fantastic sessions of my day. Ruan, I'll get you in the comment section after this is over. I'll go ahead and type it up for you. So I appreciate everybody, and I will see you on Thursday. You guys have a great week out there, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.